This episode sponsored by Lake Monster Details, producing the Don's Light and Magic Legacy line of parts, offering upgrade parts and decals for accuracy, special effects, and lighting. Visit www.lakemonsterdetails.com and make it glow. Also sponsored by Decals, producing aftermarket replacement decals and custom quality graphics for your favorite spaceships. Visit www.gcals.company.site and add some personalization to your sci-fi models today. Also sponsored by Mask Design, boldly going where no masking kit has gone before. Take your model to the next level of detail and accuracy with a masking kit from Mask Design. Visit Mask Design on Facebook or click the ordering link in the notes below the video. Hey, what's up, fellow modelers? Will here. Welcome to the Engines Chair. So this episode we are going to wrap up the Kronos 1 build finally. It's been a bit since I put out a video. It's the holiday season, you know. Here we are. I think this is mid-December. It's definitely mid-December. Time flies by. But it's been a couple weeks since I put anything out. I mean, we just had Thanksgiving. We got Christmas coming up, so apologize for the delay. But finally got the Kronos done. She's on her stand. She's sitting across from me now, staring at me, and ready to wrap this up. So that's pretty much what we'll be doing this episode. I do want to mention, though, at the close of this, I did forget to mention, you're going to see there's an explosion effect that I added to this, where the basically the stand support meets the model itself. And I didn't really go into detail as to how I did that effect. So basically, that is a 3D print, and that file is available for free from I think Colts 3D, or one of them has it for free. It's an explosion. Just do a search for Explosion STL. It'll come up. I'm pretty sure it was Colts 3D. Yeah, I'm looking at it now. It's on Colts 3D. It's a free file. Basically, I just made a hole through it, big enough for my inner rod support stand to go in, and then left a little gap there for me to put a couple of SMDs in there to light it up. And then I just did a little shading on the points of the explosions with some gray and some black, just to kind of give it a little bit of texture, I guess. But so that's how I did that effect. I forgot to mention at the end of the video, so I just want to put that out there. You'll see what I'm talking about when we get towards the end of this video and I show it on the stand. But I just want to put that out there for anybody that's interested in how I did that and how you can do that effect. It's pretty easy to do. But the other thing I want to mention too is, and I hope Boyd doesn't get mad at me for putting this out, but I know a lot of people don't have Facebook or don't do Facebook. I know I've had a couple people reach out to me that when I post pictures on Facebook, they mention that they don't do Facebook. So just putting this out for those of you that may not be aware, but Boyd mentioned that he is battling cancer right now. So he doesn't really want to put it on his YouTube. He wants to keep that as a positive site. So please don't go blasting his YouTube page with things, because he wants to keep that about the modeling and about what he enjoys. And I totally respect that. But I know there are a lot of people that don't do Facebook that absolutely love Boyd and love what he does. And all my hopes and prayers for Boyd. You know, he's, like I said, he's one of my inspirations for getting back into modeling a number of years ago, and not doing any more tribute builds this year or next year, Boyd, so you got to stay with us. So just want to put that out for those that may not be aware, and just say all my hopes and prayers for Boyd and his family, and hopefully he has a speedy recovery there. So but anyway, thank you for joining me. Let's not delay this any further. Let's get into this build and finish it up. So give me a minute. I'll put you on the bench. We'll get to work. Alright guys, so here we go. I got the battery box pulled out, and the battery box uses 3 AA's, and AA's are good for 1.5 volts. So if we do that times 3, we should have 4.5 volts. I just want to verify it because I want to make sure. I don't think there's any reduction board or anything in here for that. So as far as I know, it should be the full 4.5 volts. So I've got this my tester, and I'm just going to test it just to make sure what I have coming out of this box is. Oh, well, it would help if I turned it on. So let's try this again. 4.5 volts, hopefully. And there we go. We got 4.45. So 4.5 volts is pretty much what this is putting out. So what we need is a way to bring in a 9 or 12 volt source and bring it down to 4.5 volts. Or, as somebody suggested, you can get wall jacks that are 4.5 volts. So that would be the easy way to go, is just do a search for wall jack that's 4.5 volts. But the thing with that is, and I'm not sure, maybe the plugs are different on 4.5 volt or not, but I don't want to take a chance of somebody taking a 9 or 12 volt jack and plugging it in and it's spitting out way more voltage than what the board is requiring, and frying that board in there. So I'm going to go a different route with it just to be on the safe side. This is a 12 volt wall jack. So what I'm going to do is I am going to utilize this. And this is a buck converter. No, I did not say butt converter. I said buck, B-U-C-K converter. And you can get these fairly cheap. I got a box of 10 of them. I think I got these off of Amazon. And they come nicely boxed and individually packaged in static package. Anti-static package, I guess you could say. And it didn't cost much. I don't remember what the exact price was. I'd have to look. I've had these for quite a while now. They've been sitting in my drawer over there and just itching for a reason to use them. So you can get these that actually have a digital display on them that tell you what the voltage is. As you adjust the voltage, it tells you what it's putting out. Basically, you got your voltage coming one side, and then your voltage gets regulated through here and spits out the other side of whatever the voltage is that you need, that you set it up for. However, if you've got a tester and you can use a tester like I've got here to check the voltage, these are way cheaper than the ones with the digital display on them. So I decided to save some money instead. There's no reason. I mean, once I put this inside the model or inside the display base, whichever one I put it in, I'm not going to see that display anymore. So why pay for the extra for the display on it? So unless you don't have one of these and it's easier for you to just get the one with display and you just need the one, then absolutely just go ahead and pick up one of these with the digital readout on it, and then you can adjust it. And that way you don't also have to buy one of these. But since I have one of these, like I said, it was just cheaper to go this route. I'm going to plug this in, and you'll see that red light. Well, you may see the red light come on because the light's kind of washing it out right now. There you go. I think you can see that red light on there. Red light turns on to let me know it's got power. And these are set up automatically or default for 12 volts. So you can see they're 11.65. So pretty much 12 volts is what these are set up for. Now I want to dial this down to 4.5 volts, and the way we do that is I take the screwdriver, this mini screwdriver, and there's a small screw right here. And all I do is I turn this counterclockwise, and you'll see the voltage on my readout start to fall down. 9.5, 8, 7, 6, 5. We want to be about 4.5 volts. I'll get as close to that as I can. Maybe just a tick below it because that's what the battery box was at. I don't want to go too low though. These are very sensitive, so you just turn the screw just so there we go. 4.45 volts. That's what the battery pack was putting out, so that's what I'm comfortable putting this at and running it at. Now the great thing about this is that this is converting 12 volts down to 4.5 volts. So if you accidentally plugged in a 9 volt power source instead of 12 volts, it's not going to hurt it because it's converting less. And I haven't tried plugging one in yet to see if this will stay at that if you plug in a lower voltage input. But even if it doesn't, 9.4 volts coming in and it subtracts whatever, you know, off of that. It's not going to overpower the board in this model, and I'm not going to worry about it frying anything. So just check it one more time. And there we are, we're at 4.45 volts, which is right where the battery pack is at, putting out power. So now that we've got this set up, basically what I can do is I can unplug this, and this will keep that voltage. So if you lose power, it's not going to change. It's basically set by this oh, what do you call these? Someone's going to have to mention it in the notes, because I always forget the term for this thing, but when you turn it, it's basically that sets it like a dial. It's set in at that voltage. So you don't have to worry about it changing on you just because you unplug it or you lose power. But now that this is set up, what I'm going to do is, and I'm probably going to put this in the base. That way, should this go bad and I need to replace it, and I don't know that these ever go bad, but if it does, it'll be in the base. I can swap it out real quick, and instead of having to worry about taking that top off the model, because I do want to kind of glue that top in place. I'll probably just use some white glue to glue that top in place. That way it can be removed easily if I need to. But by doing this, I can run my two power wires now down through the support rod and into the base, and I can run them onto this side and then run my power in on this side, and I'll have my 4.5 volts supplying constant power to the model. And then that way I can control it. This will input side will hook up to a switch, and that way I can turn the switch on and off, and that'll turn my model on and off versus having to continuously open up that back part and turn the switch on and off in there. So it's just a solution if you want to go that route. This is information I will find. I'll have to go back and find where I bought these from, and I'll put the link in the notes below. But they're very cheap. You can get 10 of these very inexpensively. I don't remember what they were. I mean, I don't even want to venture to guess how much they were, but they were really cheap. I just remember that. So buck converter, there's an option for you if you want to use it. I'm going to get this set up and get it wired into the base, and then we will come back and take a look at the base once I get a little bit further along with that. So give me a little bit to work on that, and we'll come back and take a look. All right, so I've got this wired up now to where I don't have the battery box anymore. Pretty much I took the power lead coming off of the board, which you can see here, and just soldered in 2 wires, ran them down. There's a hole where the support rod goes in this. You've got to drill a small hole to get the wire through. So I've done that. I've run the wire out. The wire is now coming out the bottom here, and is now running to my buck converter. Buck, B-U-C-K, converter. Buck converter, not butt. But I've got that wired in. Let's try plugging it in and see how it works. Hopefully we don't blow anything up. And there we go. You can see it's lit up. You can see the light on the underbelly through the top here. And then we've got that light blinking here. We've got the light on our grills lit up. All the other lights are lit up. Everything's lighting up nice. Everything's lit up in the back. Let me turn this off, make it a little bit easier to see. Everything's lit up here. Engines are lit up. You can't see those from this angle, but they're lit up. Photon is lit up. So everything is working great off the buck converter, which has been turned down to, like I said before, 4.5 volts, or 4.45 to be exact. I also worked out that light leak issue I was having where light was coming out here and spilling over the wings. What I did was I came in here and I covered those 2 side bulbs with the area that's lighting up here. I covered that cavity off with some styrene, and then I just went crazy with my matte tulip and light blocked everything here and everything in the front. And now I don't get that light leak. And also with that battery box out of the way, I can lay this board down better. And I now, when this is fully seated, I don't have that gap that I had on these sides here. So with the lights out, I no longer have that light coming out and showing over the wings. So that's all good to go now. This is working off the buck converter perfectly. And my next step is to get the base done. When this is, well, I got to get the base done. I do have a couple more decals to do on this yet. And then I've got to clear coat it, and then I will do the weathering, which I have, let's see, I picked up some paints, some oil-based paints here. I've got this Mars Black that I'm going to use, which is the signature, Master's Touch. I think I got this from Hobby Lobby. I've got that color, and then I've got this sand color that I'm going to use. And I'm going to do some weathering and try to bring us out more of the tan in this. Maybe lighten up that gray a little bit and just give it a good wash, especially with the black. Just bring it down some and use kind of a wash with that black to get into some of these mechanical pit areas to darken it up. But as I'm working on finishing this up, I'm working on my display stand, which you can see I've got to finish. I've got to size this a little bit more, but this will be a backlit display screen in the center here, and then I'll have the buttons will be in these areas here. They'll be non-functional, of course. They're just going to be for display purposes. But because I'm only using the Polar Lights board, which doesn't really have any function other than on or off. So I've got the on or off switch here, and this will control the lighting for the display base and for the model itself. So I'll get to work on that. I've also got my power jack installed on the back here, and I've got to run my wiring. I'm not too worried about all this mess under here. This is just going to get a cover over it anyway. But the power wires for the model will come out here, so I've got to wire that all in. The switch, which I've had to bend the connectors for because otherwise they stuck out too far and the base wouldn't sit flat. So I've just bent them at an angle so that way the base will still sit flat, but I got to get that wired in. So I'll run my wires from the power lead up to the front switches here, and then from the switches to the model itself to power everything on. So I've got to work on that and get that done. That's going to take a little more work. But once I get that done and finish getting this weathered, the model will be done. So give me a little bit. I'm going to work a little more. If I've got something else I want to point out, I'll come back and show it. Otherwise, when I come back, we should be pretty much done with this build. So give me a bit and we'll be back. Alright guys, so once you get your decals all done, all the ones that are shown on your instructions, you're left with a bunch of smaller decals that don't really give you any placement guide for these. So I'm going to try to go through the studio model and document these and show you as best as possible where most of, if not all, these decals go. So first up, these little black circles. You got one that goes here. And then on the front of your studio model, you've got one here and one here. So that's where the black circles go. Let me see what else we've got. All right, the double white squares. According to the studio model, you've got a set here and then another set there. These are the double white windows or white squares, because you do have single white squares, but these are the doubles. We got several of these. I'll see if there's any more, but these are the two I see for now. You got a single white dot that goes centered on this piece of gold leaf that you got here, or photo etch, whichever one you used. But it just gets centered right on there. All right, the open box squares, little boxes you've got. You got one here, one here, one on this panel that you painted gray. I've got to move that a little bit more. And on the same side on the other side. So this one that you painted gray, if you use the painting masks for mass design, you should have a white box in that bottom rear corner on that one. Now this is opposite because I've got this flipped upside down. It's the top rear, but it should be bottom rear if you're looking at it with the ship turned right side up. So I've got those ones. I've got one left over. So I'm not sure if they gave you an extra just in case you lost one, because these are very small. But I'll see if I see any more of these as well. Alright guys, and then this one, you've got an open circle. This is that panel that you would have painted if you followed the mask design paint guide.
And you skip over this group of 3 here, and this panel right here, you're going to put an open circle is what I'm calling it. And you're going to do that on both sides. All right, here's the last batch I could find. So on this side here, you've got 2 double squares, and then you've got a single white square on the underside here. So you've got a double black and a single white. And on the pylon or the nacelle here, you've got a single black circle that should go here. And you also have a single black square that should go to the front here. And do that same on both sides, same on the other nacelle. And then I think that's just about it. I think I pretty much covered all the ones I could find looking at the pictures of the studio model. I will point out though that on the studio model, this is a single white square on the starboard side. On the port side is a double triangle. But you don't have any double triangles, so I just used 2 single triangles. I don't know if I can get that to show up because I have my micro set on there. And it's kind of breaking the decal down to get it to lay down more. So it's hard to see right now. But that double black stays the same. And again, like I said, on the nacelle, you've got a single black here, black square, and a single black circle here. And that's pretty much it, guys. That's all I could find as far as looking at the studio model. There's still a lot of these left. Now, you can find other places to put them if you want. I did do one other thing. I noticed you could just catch a glimpse of these 3 circles on one of the studio model photos. So I've done this on both sides. Now you don't have any triple open circles like this. So I did a double and then used a single to add that 3rd circle in there. So that's what I did with that. And like I said, I think that's pretty much it. As far as those supplemental decals that you kind of got just sitting here. I couldn't find where these white ones go. I'll look at the instructions one more time and see if I see those. I don't know if that 28 was for the decal that was cut out here or if it's for these white ones. And I couldn't see anything as far as these little gray squares either. I'll take one final look at those and see if I see them. But that's pretty much it. Decaling is done. I'm going to start putting some micro set on these to help them lay down. And it'll get a primer coat, or not a primer coat, but a clear coat on it, and then I will be ready to weather this model. So give it a bit and we'll come back and take a look at it.
All right, working on finishing up the base here, and I've pretty much got it wired out. I've got my jack back here, and I've got a positive and a negative wire running off of that and coming around the side here all the way to the front to the switch. Now this switch has 3 connectors to it. A lot of them only have 2. But it's got 3 because it's got a negative input because there's a light in the switch, so that light needs a ground. But then you've got the positive input and then a positive output in that order. So negative, positive input, positive output on the switch. So the positive and negative wire from the DC jack is running over here to those inputs. Now on the positive output, I've got a wire running over to my buck converter, which I've already got hot glued in place. I've got 2 wires running off of the output side ready to be hooked up once I've got the model on here, and I've got those power leads coming off of that. So those are ready to be spliced in. And I've got also spliced off of this wire, I've got a negative and a positive for a self-flashing LED, which we'll see what that's working here in a minute when I flip this over. But I've got self-flashing. It doesn't require a control board. It just blinks by itself. I use the same thing for the firing button on the big bird of prey that I did. And I'm doing it pretty much for the same reason on this, although this button is not a functional button like it was on the big bird of prey. So I've got that wired in, and then also off of the positive and negative terminal on here, I've got wires running over to my LEDs, my LED strip tapes, which are, I think these are cool white, and they are 12 volt. They can work on 9 volt, but they're obviously this is set up for 12 volts right now. But you can use these LED strip tapes, which I get from LED Supply. I'll put the link down below for anybody that's interested. But I use these a lot. Now I've started switching over to kind of the Cobb LED light strips because it's just so much even lighting than what these offer, even with dual density, which is what these are. But I've got these wired in all the way around. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 strips of that in place. So that all my wiring's done, ready to go, ready to put the model on and hook it up and be done with it, with the electronics on it. And you'll see these colored panels. What I did on this was, sometimes what I'll do is I'll take, when I do my buttons, I'll paint the underside the red color or the orange, green, whatever color I'm going to use. I paint the button underside that color. That way the top stays the clear color. The thing with these are so thin, and it's just much easier to do it this way, which was I cut a clear piece of plastic. Basically, I get a picture frame and I just use the plastic. If it's make sure it's got a plastic. It's almost like a poster board, and it's got a nice thick plastic to it, clear plastic, and that's what I use for this. And I always keep some on hand because that's also all I use for this insert part here, which we're going to talk about here in a minute. But what I did was it lets me just paint this whole thing red, and then I masked off 2 little buttons on this one, which I painted. I think the light's kind of washing that out, but you'll see it here in a minute, which I painted orange just to give it a little bit of a different color. I've got this painted red. These are 3 round buttons, and then again painted this mostly red and masked off 1 for orange. So that's how I did the coloring on this. And what that does is, let me flip this over. And I don't have the bottom on this. The backing on this is going to have foil tape lining to help reflect this light more. So what you see here will be amplified once I put that foil line backing plate on this. So just keep that in mind. But it actually looks pretty good even as it is. Let me plug in my DC jack here. A 12-volt power supply. I'll plug that in, and we'll turn the switch on. And there we go. So you can see that light that I was talking about on the switch. That's why the switch itself has to have a negative terminal on it. So it lets that switch light up with an orange light. I don't know how much the camera is going to wash this out on my viewfinder. It looks like it's showing the colors pretty decent. I've got a flashing red button here. Again, non-functional, but it just gives it a little something, a little more animation to the control panel, just to at least have something on there that's flashing, even though none of these buttons are functional. But I've got that, and then I've got some square buttons here and some smaller square buttons here, and you can kind of see, hopefully, let me turn this light off a second and see if that makes a difference. No, then it really gets washed out. But I don't know if the camera's picking up, but I've got an orange button here and an orange button here. Let me try putting some of the buttons in place, and you can see what this does is, and the camera probably won't pick it up this way, but by doing that back part like that, instead of having the back of the buttons painted the color, it gives it kind of a nice glow to it with the color, rather than it being just a solid harsh hard color. And these got to go in a certain way, so I've got to, let me just put a couple of these in place. So it gives it a nice glow versus if you painted it directly, and you get this kind of hard red or orange or whatever color you painted it. It gives it kind of a softer glow to it by giving that little bit of space in between. So let me just put a couple of these in place. And I got to put these in a certain direction, so I can flip some of these around. I'm not going to worry about lining these up too much right now. I just kind of want to get these in so you can see how those are lighting up. And maybe putting these in will help camera pick it up a little bit better. Yeah, so you've got some, you can see some different coloring to it, and that's kind of the way it looks. Some of the screenshots I used to model this after, as far as a Klingon control console, it looked like they had kind of a combination of red and maybe some orange buttons. So that's kind of what I did here, was I just put a couple of orange, and they actually come out looking more yellow than orange to me, but it is an orange that I used for these buttons. So I've got the one button here that's a different color. And if you look at this and look at a picture of a lot of the Klingon control panels that are lit up, in the shows. I think this gives a pretty good effect as far as making the lighting look pretty close to what, oop, I just dropped that one, pretty close to what those panels look like in the TV shows and the movies. So I've got all those, and then these three will go here. All right, so there's the buttons. So that's pretty much how those are going to light up. And even without that foil line backing, like I said, they still light up pretty nice already. So the reason why I want to use the foil backlight is because of the center part, my backlit display here. And the way I do this is I've got a piece of plastic, a piece of styrene that I've cut to shape, and that's just going to slip into place. And this is mainly so I don't get any bright spots on the display itself, and also gives support to the transparency that I've got, which is just going to slide in place here. And if you want more information about how I do these kind of, I mean, it's not a pricey thing to do at all. These old, I've got to cut a little more off in this corner. It's kind of sticking, but I'll worry about that in a minute. I've got a video on my site on here somewhere about making a backlit budget display, and so I talk more about that in those videos. I'm not really going to talk about it much in here, but you can see that lights up. I'll turn this light off to see if it doesn't wash it out too bad, but there you go. You can see. So it's going to light that backlighting part here that I want backlit. Now I've got a little bit of light leakage on it, and that's okay, because what I'll do is I'm going to I still have yet to print a bezel that'll go around this display, which will give it a little more depth, and also will hide those little light gaps I've got. Oops, the little light gaps I've got around the edges in some spots. So that'll work out real nice. This is turning out really good. You know, further down the road, I do another one of these. Maybe I'll make it functional. I am working on some other displays currently that hopefully I'll have out here for people to download. I was looking to do some kits, but I just really don't have time to do kits right now. I've got the bomber jacket belt buckle that I'm working on, and I'm going to be focused on doing a lot of those, so I'm not going to have a whole lot of time to deal with putting kits together of display stands. But these display stands I'm doing, I'm going to probably put out for downloadable files for those that may be interested in using some of these. But anyway, so this is pretty much done. I've just got to glue all of this stuff in place. This is already glued in place, but I've got to glue all these other buttons in place, and that won't take me too long to do. And then the model is ready to go. I've just got to go over, I've got to put another clear coat on it yet and do the weathering, and then we're done. So give me a little bit to work on that. I'll get these glued in place, and I'll start working on that weathering, and we'll come back and take a look here in a little bit. All right, base is about ready for this to be installed, but before I can do that, I've got to get this thing weathered, and it's ready to get weathered now. Now, I'm not going to do a full detail on I'm not really going to go into weathering any on this, because Gary does a great job of it on his videos. So make sure you go over the mask design and check out his video on weathering this. And I'm basically going to follow the steps that he's gone over. Really, all I want to do is show a couple things. I did get the find the same mineral spirits that he uses. This is available at Hobby Lobby here in the U.S. So you can pick that up. And they also, while I was there, I picked up a set of brushes because I don't really have any big brushes, which is what you're going to want to use for this. So I just picked up this 5-pack of artistic brushes. It says it's 12 shaders and 5 rounds. So this is what I'll be using to do the weathering. And as for the paints, now I didn't get the exact same paints. You can order the paints that Gary shows online. I didn't want to wait for that. So I went to Hobby Lobby and found what looked to be pretty close to what, and going based on his statements, looked pretty close to what he was using, what I could find at Hobby Lobby. So I've got this Indian Yellow Deep is what this is called, Master's Touch oil paint from Hobby Lobby. So I got this because it looked pretty close to what he was using for kind of a rust color. I did show some other colors before, but I decided to do different after rewatching Gary's video. So ignore that. If I did mention some other oil paints before, forget it. These are the ones that I think look closer to what he's using. So Indian Yellow Deep is more of my rust color. And then he said he was using a paint that had a little bit of gray to it, not a straight black. Now I had a straight black on this before. But what I got was this, it's called Payne's Gray. So this is kind of like a, if anybody's familiar with the Euro 1 Gray that Model Master used to put out, or I think I've got a acrylic paint here that is, I think it's called wrought iron. So it's a black, but it's got just a little bit of a gray tint to it. So that's what this is that I'm going to use. It's called Payne's Gray. It looks pretty much black, but it's got just the slightest gray tint to it. So that's what I'm going to be using for this. And other than that, the only thing you really need is a good rag. Now what I did was I got an old t-shirt. Every time I have an old t-shirt, I cut them up and I use them for rags for like car work and stuff like that. So I've got an old t-shirt that I cut up. These t-shirts are really good to cut up and reuse for rags because they don't tend to leave behind a lot of lint and stuff like that if you use the cotton t-shirts. Don't use like the spandex, or if you got a pair of spandex pants, first of all, keep that to yourself. I don't want to know. Second of all, it's a different material. So just, if you got some cotton t-shirts laying around, just cut one up and just use, reuse it as a rag if you got an old t-shirt laying around. So that's what I do. So I've got some of these laying around from, doing car work and that, and I do some stuff here around the model shop here, and I've got a couple of these laying around. So that's what I'm going to be using for a rag. Do not use paper towels, because paper towels, depending on the paper towel, now I have had paper towels that have done really good about not leaving residue behind, but most paper towels are going to use little fibers. And what we're going to have to do is, well, first of all, it's going to get mixed in with your paint when you're weathering this, and also when you go to clear coat this, that clear coat is going to show any fibers and stuff that are on here. So just don't use paper towels. Get cotton, get something that's meant to be used for work, for like paint work and stuff like that. Other than that, the only other thing I'll say is there was one other thing I wanted to tell you, but I can't think of what it is. So I'm going to start weathering this, and if I think of what it is, I'll come back and just I'm gonna come back anyway and kind of show you where I'm at once I start getting this weathered up. But just take your time with it. Like I said, follow Gary's videos. That's all I'm going to be doing, is doing the same thing Gary did. Make sure that you're using acrylic craft paints if you're following Gary's guide. You do want to make sure that you get a good clear coat. Oh, that's what I want to tell you. Hang on. Let me grab my clear coat real quick. Run across the shop here and grab this and show you what I got. All right, now this is one thing different from what Gary used. Now Gary used the Rust-Oleum, or the whatever the paint is that we're using to the 2X. He used the matte clear. I use this Duplicolor wheel matte. You don't have to use it. I'm sure what Gary uses is fine. It's just this is something that was recommended by Boyd over at Trekworks a while back, and I've been using it ever since. It's been great. I have had no issues, whether I'm using craft acrylics or other paints, with any kind of adverse reactions between this and the paints I'm using. So this is what my go-to has been. It's been a little bit harder to find because the AutoZone near me stopped carrying it, so now I have to order it offline, but usually I buy 2 cans of this and it's still pretty affordable. But this is what I use. I've got a couple cans around, and just wanted to say that's what I use for my my clear coat, is that matte wheel. And yes, I even use it before I put my decals on, because I've never had a problem with using that matte. A lot of people put a gloss coat on, and that's fine. But I've used that matte wheel on all my models and done decals over it and never had any problems, except for the issue I had with the tearing on these, which I've still got to send those into round 2 to take a look at. But they were tearing before they were even coming off the paper, so that's not a problem with the coating. It's just I think something was wrong with the decals. But anyway, this is ready to go. I'm ready to start weathering this. So I'm going to start working on this. I'm going to continue to work on my base, which is almost ready to go. And when we come back, I'll come back and show you the results of the bottom side here, at least before I flip it over and start doing the top, and let you see how it looks. So give me a little bit to work on this, and we'll come back and take a look. All right, so just jumping in here for a second, I just wanted to show y'all something, and I think this showed a bit on Gary's. This is kind of where Gary was talking about, what have you done? And it's like you look at this, and I don't know how the camera's picking it up. It may look, kind of looks tannish, I guess, maybe a little brownish. It actually looks pretty green in person, and I was a little bit concerned. I already did this side over here some, and I'm only about, I guess, a half hour into this maybe. And I just want everybody to see, though, that, yeah, it's a little scary when you first start doing it, because if you haven't done the weathering on this before. And some people may be also saying that, well, it's a ship in space, why are you weathering it? Well, I mean, weathering it is just a term that is used to basically describe, doing anything that kind of shows wear and tear on the ship. And yeah, these are in space, but this one in particular has been in a lot of battles, and there's still, debris in space, stuff that it comes into, and I think you need some weathering on this. It's, and the Klingons aren't, I talked about this when I did my bird of prey and the weathering on that, and of course the bird of prey is a little different because that goes into atmospheres, but it's a little bit different because the Klingons, they obviously don't care if their ships are all pristine. Now this one in particular is probably a little cleaner than most because it's, the Chancellor's ship, but I just kind of want to show this and let people know that, hey, if you start doing this, don't fret about it. If it starts looking a little off, the great thing about these oil paints, and this is the first time I'm doing weathering with oil paints, and I'm really happy with how well they go on, and then they don't come off 100%. So if you start to get a little bit too much of one color, for example, right now this is looking a little bit too greenish to me. So what I'll do is, what I did on the other side, I had the same issue. It was just looking way too green. So I took it down a bit, and I'll just wipe off what I can on this. And then just come back with your other color, and it really does help to kind of blend it in. And it won't look so green after you put it in a little more black. Well, not quite black in this case, but this kind of like a charcoal, or like I had said before, it's kind of like a wrought iron color. It's a black with just a hint of gray to it, and just come back over it and mix a little more of your other color back in. If it's just looking too much like one color or the other, just come back in with the other color and mix it back in. And what you'll see is, after you do that, it'll kind of pull out some of that other color, and it'll even out a bit more. So, like I said, this is my first time using oils for any type of weathering. I usually just use my acrylics. When I did the bird of prey weathering, it was all just my craft paint acrylic that I used for that, and it turned out fine. But I'm actually liking the way that this is coming out. Like I said, just mix your other color in, and then come back and give it a little wipe down, and it will actually tone down that other color a lot more to where it doesn't look so yellowish or greenish or whatever hue you're getting in there. But like I said, make sure you check out Gary's weathering video on this, because he does a great job, and that's basically what I'm going by. So what you're seeing here is me just going by what I picked up from Gary's video on weathering this, and it's so far it's not bad. It's turned out pretty good. I like it. It's I've been kind of looking at some of the pictures I took of it from when it was on display at the Skirball in LA. I think it's been about 2 years ago now, and it actually looks pretty close. Of course, pictures are hard to tell sometimes, but I actually like the way this is going. So I'm going to keep working on this. I think I'm going to do tone this down a little bit more. You put a little more black on this side again and bring it back to more of a neutral tone versus more of this greenish hue that I'm seeing right now. But I just want to cue in and chime in and tell you that if you first time you're using this and you start seeing too much of one shade, take it off as much as you can, come back in with your other shade, and it seems to even out pretty well. So let me continue with this, and we'll come back and take a look here in a little bit. All right, so I am pretty much done with the weathering. It's turned out spectacular. Gary was dead on, I think, with his recommendations as far as using kind of a grayish black and also using kind of a tan to blend it all in. Yeah, I tried to do, I kind of got away from using the tan because to me it was just coming out really green. And I started doing the front, and after I did the front with just the black, I noticed, you really need that tan to kind of bring it out, bring out the colors a little bit more and kind of tone it down a little bit more. Otherwise, you end up with a lot more still of the gray and red, and it really doesn't tone it down much as it does when you use that brown with it. So I went back and used it, and I'm happy with it now. I think the weathering looks great on it. I am still adding, I've got to go back. I did save a little bit of my black because I do want to go over this photo etch. But I've been working on putting the few pieces of photo etch that I'm using with this kit, which are mainly the ones I think that come with the kit itself. And then you had some other ones that came with the lighting kit, which I'm not using any of because I really don't need them. The little window ones I think will come in handy when I go to do the Katinga, because I do see those windows on photos of the studio model before it was modified for the Kronos, but I really don't see any of that detail, so I'm not using those. But to the point, I'm doing the photo etch. I just want to mention I've done this, I've gone over this in other videos, but for those of you that are doing photo etch for the first time with this kit, because it actually comes with it, I just want to mention when you go to move it, now they do make cutters for the photo etch. You don't have to have a cutter. You can use your hobby knife, but just use a hard flat surface like a piece of wood, and lay the photo etch down, and then take your sharp edge of your blade and just press down where you've got that connecting little sprue there. Press down where that sprue connects to your photo etch that you want and cut it off. And using a flat hard surface will keep you from bending this up when you do that. You can see I've been cutting mine off. The other thing you want to do too is once you get the cut off, you still sometimes will end up with little pieces of the sprue on there. And what you want to do is take a file, but you don't want to go crossways with it because you'll bend this up. So what you want to do is go lengthwise with it, just like this, and just file down that little piece of sprue that you might have left on there. And you can just get a cheap little set of files to take it down with. But that's how you want to take that sprue off. You don't want to go crosswise with it because you'll end up bending your photo etch up. So if you go lengthwise with it, and you can see there, I pretty much got that piece of sprue off. Maybe just a little bit, a hair more on there, but that's how you just work it down, just nice and gentle. Don't push down on it too much. I think we've got that one's good. That's good. So this piece of photo etch, if I can catch it in the light right, is ready now to go, and this is the part that goes on top of the bridge. So I'm gonna finish getting these last couple pieces added, but I just wanted to mention for those of you that haven't worked with photo etch before that be careful when you cut these. Use a nice hard surface and just use the edge of your hobby knife, and you can cut these from the sprue just fine. And if you got any sprue left, like I still got a little bit right here on this one, just take a file and just gently work it back and forth lengthwise along the photo etch. So finish getting these installed, and we will come back here in a bit. All right, here it is. It's all done. All the weathering's done. The photo etch has been added. The decals have all been added. Everything's been blended in, and it is on the mount. And you see this display mount. It's just for looks. It's none of these buttons really do anything, but the only button that works is this one. This one cuts everything on and off. I did remove the battery pack, and I think I showed earlier in the video that I did the wiring. So now it is wired to a 12-volt power supply using that buck converter. So I don't have to worry about switching out batteries. I don't have to worry about pulling this off. I didn't glue this on. I did leave it loose just in case I need to get in there and deal with that circuit board that everything plugs into. But everything's done. It's beautiful. I think it turned out real nice. Thank you to Gary over at Mass Design for his masks and his paint guide and weathering. I don't think I would have had it turn out this nice without all that. So if you haven't gotten this masking kit and you're looking to build this, make sure you check out Gary over at Mass Design and get the mask. It turned out real nice. I think his choice of colors are spot on, in my opinion. And especially with the weathering, it really blends everything to make it look more like the studio model. But yeah, it turned out real nice. I'm real happy with this build.
Took me a couple months, but I also had other builds going on along with this, so you can definitely do it quicker. I think I started this in late July, early August, maybe mid-August, and here it is mid-December, so about 4 months to finish this. But and also I had some other things, like I did this rear photon cover and these rear cross members that are different from the Kronos one. This is actually from the flashback episode of Voyager. I've had a couple people that didn't know where that came from, but that's where that came from. It's from the flashback Voyager episode. You see, they had these. I think it was the last time this model was used. The studio model was used was in that episode, and it had these modifications. Now it's been returned to its original appearance. If you see it on display anywhere, I saw this on display at the Skirball about 2 years ago, and they had restored it a lot. But yeah, real happy with this. It turned out real nice. I did add a little detail to the bottom here, a little explosion at the bottom. I painted the display rod black so that it doesn't show up as much when the lights are off. As a matter of fact, let's go turn the light off so we can kind of get a look at this all lit up. And there we go. You see how she's lit up? Everything lights up real nice. We've got those lights in the back. The lights on either side of the shuttle bay are lit up, and the impulse are lit up real nice. And you'll notice also I took care of that light leak that I had coming out from under this box here. I light blocked everything in the box. And also when I took out that battery box and ran just the wire, it gave me a little more room to move stuff around, and I was able to get it to sit down a little better. So that worked out real nice. You can see how the grills are lit up. And we've got our nav light blinking. And we got our bridge lit up. The only disappointment I have is that the windows on the bulb section here, they don't light up as nice as I would like. You can see it lighting up, but I would like to see more light coming out of that. So definitely when I build this again, and I will build it again because I've got that photo etch set that I've got to use. It came in too late for me to use it on this build, which is great because I get to use Gary's masking set and instructions again, and I get to do some improvements that some things that I learned building this one that I didn't get to do on this one, I'll get to do on the next one. But you can see that explosion effect on the bottom here that lights up. But real happy with that. That was just kind of a last minute thing I decided to do, and it turned out real nice. But yeah, here she is, all done. Let me turn this light back on. And like I said, real happy with it. It turned out really nice, and definitely looking forward to using Gary's masks again in the future. But so thank you, Gary, over at Mass Design for that masking set and awesome paint guide and weathering instructions as well. So if you're planning on building this, please make sure you check out Gary over at Mass Design and check out the masks for this. He's got a really good price point on them, and it's well worth. To me, he's undercutting himself. It's well worth what he's asking for those masks for what you get. And but so make sure you check that out. The links always below this video for Gary. The links are also below this video for my my other sponsors. Cass over at Lake Monster Details, make sure you check him out, and Gus over at Decals, make sure you check him out as well. I'll be doing some builds here in the future, hopefully using some of Gus's stuff, and I've got the Enterprise A, and I'm using some of Cass's stuff from Lake Monster Details. Also hoping to have a discussion with Cass here on video at some point. Got a couple things we want to talk about, and I think it'd be cool to do a little interview video with him. He's got some awesome stories about Don from Don's Light and Magic, which he took over the parts for that. So just something else to look forward to in the future. I've got a build coming up after the first of the year that I'm looking to do with Gus. He's got some decals that he's working on, looking at doing the Death Star, the Chimera Star Destroyer, actually, from Star Wars. So look for that. But that's it for this. She's all done, and she's ready to go up on the shelf, and let me just stare at it for a while. But I just want to say thank you for everybody, all the new subscribers. I've gotten a ton of new subscribers, especially during the process of this build. So thank you for subscribing. If you haven't subscribed, please consider hitting that subscribe button and then hit that little bell icon so you get all the updates as I put them out for other builds. But thank you all the new subscribers. I just want to say it's been a pretty cool build. I've enjoyed this one. Being honest, I don't enjoy every build. Some builds are a real challenge to do, but this one has been a real fun one to build. So don't mind doing this one again. But thank you everybody for watching. Until next time, keep modeling.